Okay, so remember how I mentioned you want to separate your work into a line drawing, value, and color into three separate areas. So your client has the opportunity to make changes and between each of those stages. Now, if the client wants to make changes to the drawing and you're already beyond the drawing, beyond value, and into color, then you can charge and say, hey, you had the opportunity to change this early on. I need to charge. This is taking up more time. And between any of those stages, you can go from traditional to digital. So you could do a traditional drawing, digital value, and traditional finish. There are artists that do their preliminary work digitally and then do an oil or traditional finish. That's pretty commonplace. Or they do the practice comps at a much smaller size because you don't really need big paintings to determine what colors you're going to use for that big painting. You can do all your experimentation at a small size so that you're not wasting time or materials. In comic books, when they draw large, they draw like typically on an 11 by 17. So they draw pretty big so that when it gets shrunk down, it becomes tighter. But you can apply that not just to comics, but to anything. I did this on a large piece of paper, which is 12 by 18, and I made a smaller version on gray paper because that gives me value. So that when I apply white, beyond just using the eraser, the electric eraser, to draw these whites on this white paper, I'm using a colored pencil or gouache or something like that. And you can also play with the exposure of your print. So I did two versions of this Jon Snow character. One I printed a little bit lighter, and one I printed a little bit darker. So even within printing and scanning and different pieces of paper, you can get that full range of value, or at least have more control over how it turns out. And this is just experimentation, right? When you make copies and work on your copies, you care less, so you're not afraid of screwing up. Because if you care, it's too much, it's too precious, you're, creating a lot more anxiety for yourself. So I always have the big one to go back to if I don't like how either of these two turned out. This one's the one I think turned out better than this one, just not punchy enough for me. And in that same way, I did the same process with Roy Jones. But I also played with some of the colors. Now, there was color to this colored pencil that I used here. And I tried printing that color on the gray paper. And I tried it with different settings. And I tried it just straight up black. But this is all white pen or white pencil. So I can decide which one I think looks best, and then I can go with the one like this one. I don't think turned out as successful. It's just printed too light. And between these, I like this one better, but this one's not bad either. And I can see where I got a little overzealous with the white, but I'm just testing. And if you keep doing this and you keep trying to make each version better, you're just gonna have better work. If you do it once and it's done, I'm getting my grade, I'm moving on, you're only gonna get to a certain level. But this process is all about getting rid of fear, like trying things out, seeing how they look. So to that end, experiment and play, and just see what happens. You might figure out a way that you really enjoy working, and maybe it's a combination of traditional and digital, because everyone's working digitally, and I see people who are afraid to work traditionally, seemingly like they don't want to. There's some that do, and I appreciate that, but I see people just jumping into digital right away just because it's comfortable and there's undo. You will improve a lot more if you do not have an undo button to step back with your mistakes. That's why I like it when people draw in pen and ink, because it forces you to improve. It forces you to stop making mistakes. And that's it. That's all I wanted to say. Hope that's helpful.